Hejin loved the quiet moments in the library the most. Every evening, as the sun set behind Seoul's tall buildings, she would walk through the old wooden doors of the university library. The smell of old books always made her smile. She had worked here for 3 years, but the magic of this place never went away. Tonight was different. The air felt heavy with something she couldn't explain. The lights in the rare books room seemed to shine a bit softer than usual. Hejin pushed her round glasses up her nose and checked her list of books that needed to be put away. Just 3 more books, she said to herself, her voice barely a whisper in the empty room. The last book on her cart was very old. Its dark blue cover was worn at the edges, and the golden letters on its spine had almost faded away. Hejin picked it up carefully. As she walked to the back of the room where the oldest books were kept, something strange happened. The book in her hands felt warm, like a cup of tea. Hejin stopped walking. She had handled thousands of books before, but none had ever felt like this. She looked around the empty room. The only sound was the quiet hum of the air conditioning. Carefully, she opened the book. The pages were yellow with age, but the writing was still clear. It was written in Korean, but between the lines were strange symbols she had never seen before. Hejin turned the pages slowly until something fell out. It was an old piece of paper, folded many times. Her hands shook a little as she opened it. What she saw made her gasp. It was a map, but not like any map she had ever seen. It showed stars and planets, with lines connecting them like a spider's web. Some of the writing was in Korean, but there were more of those strange symbols too. The paper seemed to glow very faintly in the dim light, like the stars it showed. She touched one of the symbols with her finger. The map gave off a soft blue light for a moment, then went back to normal. Hejin's heart was beating fast. She knew she should tell someone about this, but who would believe her? The library's clock struck 9, making Hejin jump. She had been looking at the map for over an hour without realizing it. She carefully folded the map and put it in her pocket. The book it came from, she placed on a special shelf where they kept books that needed more study. As she walked home that night, the map felt warm in her pocket. The streets of Seoul were busy as usual, but Hejin felt like she was walking in a dream. The tall buildings and bright signs seemed different now, as if they were hiding secrets too. In her small apartment, Hejin spread the map out on her desk. The strange symbols seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. She made herself a cup of tea and sat down to study it more carefully. "What are you?" she whispered to the map. "Where did you come from?" She didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of something much bigger than her quiet life in the library. The map was more than just paper and ink. It was a door to something wonderful. And Hejin, with her love of books and quiet ways, had been chosen to find it. As she fell asleep that night, the map on her desk glowed softly, its strange symbols casting gentle shadows on her walls. In her dreams, Hejin saw libraries floating among the stars, filled with books that held the secrets of the universe. She didn't know it yet, but soon these dreams would become very real indeed. 3 days after finding the strange map, Hejin was working late again in the library. The moon was full, shining through the tall windows of the rare books room. She couldn't stop thinking about the map, which she now kept in her desk drawer at work. As she sorted through a pile of returned books, she heard footsteps. This was strange because the library had closed 2 hours ago. Hejin looked up and saw a young man standing in the doorway. He wore simple clothes, a white shirt and dark pants, but something about him seemed different. "I'm sorry, but the library is closed," Hejin said politely, standing up from her desk. The man smiled. "I'm not here for the regular books," he said in perfect Korean, though his accent was unusual. "I'm here about the map you found, Hejin." Hejin's heart beat faster. She hadn't told anyone about the map. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "My name is Jaiho," he said, walking closer. The moonlight seemed to follow him, creating a soft glow around his figure. I'm a researcher, but not the kind you're thinking of. I come from much further away. He-Jin noticed that his footsteps made no sound on the wooden floor. She opened her desk drawer and took out the map. Do you know what these symbols mean? She asked. Jai-ho nodded. They are the written language of my people, the Dreamweavers. We are travelers who collect and protect knowledge across the stars. He pointed to one of the glowing lines on the map. This is the path I took to reach Earth. Instead of feeling scared, He-Jin felt strangely calm. Maybe it was Jai-ho's gentle voice, or maybe it was because, deep down, she had always known there was more to the universe than what she could see from her library windows. Why did you leave this map here? She asked. We didn't leave it. You found it, Jai-ho said, smiling again. The map reveals itself only to those who can help us. For centuries, we have been leaving pieces of our knowledge in Earth's libraries. Books that contain secrets about the stars, about dreams, about the true nature of reality. He-Jin looked at the books around her with new eyes. Are there more maps? Better than maps, Jai-ho said. He walked to a shelf and pulled out a book that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. There are doorways. Each special book is a bridge between worlds, but they only work when the right person reads them. He handed the book to He-Jin. It felt warm in her hands, just like the first one had. When she opened it, the pages gave off a soft blue light. The words seemed to float above the paper. Why me? He-Jin asked, looking up from the glowing pages. Because you love books not just for their stories, but for their magic, Jai-ho explained. You believe in the power of knowledge to change worlds. We need people like you, He-Jin. People who can help us protect and share the wisdom of the universe. He-Jin sat down at her desk, still holding the glowing book. Outside, the moon cast long shadows through the windows, but the library felt brighter than ever. What happens next? She asked. Jai-ho sat in the chair across from her. That depends on you. I can show you how to read these special books, how to use them to visit other libraries across the stars. But only if you want to learn. He-Jin looked at the map, then at the glowing book in her hands. Her quiet life as a librarian suddenly seemed like the beginning of a much bigger story. Teach me, she said. Jai-ho smiled, and the whole room seemed to fill with starlight. The next evening, Jai-ho led He-Jin to a part of the library she had never seen before. Behind the oldest shelves, through a door that seemed to appear out of nowhere, they entered a large round room. The walls were lined with books that glowed softly in different colors, like a rainbow made of starlight. In the center of the room stood a group of people. An elderly woman with kind eyes stepped forward. Her silver hair was tied neatly in a bun, and she wore traditional Korean clothes that seemed to shimmer as she moved. Welcome, He-Jin, the woman said warmly. I am Elder Yumi. We have been waiting for you. He-Jin looked around the room. Besides Elder Yumi, there were 4 other people. Each one stood near a different colored section of books. They all smiled at her in a friendly way. We are the keepers, Elder Yumi explained. For many generations, we have protected the knowledge that the Dreamweavers shared with Earth. Each of us guards a different type of wisdom. A tall man wearing a white lab coat stepped forward. I am Du Young, he said. I study how dreams connect with the movement of stars. In my regular life, I work as a quantum physicist, but here, I learn how science and dreams work together. He-Jin noticed that Du Young's section of the library contained books that glowed with a soft green light. When he opened one, equations floated above the pages like dancing fireflies. Come, sit with us, Elder Yumi said, gesturing to a circle of cushions on the floor. As they sat down, He-Jin saw that the ceiling of the room was painted with the same star map she had found. Every library in Korea has a room like this, Elder Yumi continued, and every country has its own keepers. Together, we form a network that spans the whole Earth. But why keep it secret? He-Jin asked. The knowledge in these books is powerful, Du Young explained. It must be shared carefully, with people who are ready to understand it. That's why the books choose their readers, like they chose you. A young woman sitting near the blue books raised her hand. "Watch this," she said. She opened a book, and suddenly the room was filled with moving images of distant planets and strange cities built among the stars. "That's Min Seo," Jai-ho said to He-jin. "She makes maps of the places we visit in our dreams. She can show us the way to any library in the universe." He-jin watched in wonder as Min Seo turned the pages, each one showing a different world. The images were so real that she felt she could step right into them. "You have a special gift, He-jin, Elder Yoon," he said softly. "You can sense the energy in these books more strongly than most. With training, you could become a bridge, someone who can help others find their way through the cosmic library network." He-jin touched one of the glowing books near her. It felt warm and familiar, like an old friend. "How do I learn?" she asked. "We will teach you," Elder Yoon smiled. "Each of us will share our knowledge. Do Young will show you how the stars guide our dreams. Min Seo will teach you to map the paths between worlds. And I will help you understand the ancient wisdom that connects all things." As He-jin looked around at her new teachers, she felt a deep sense of belonging. The quiet library where she had worked for 3 years had been hiding this wonderful secret all along. Now she was part of it. "When do we start?" she asked. "We already have," Jai-ho said, and the room filled with gentle, starlit warmth. 1 month had passed since He-jin joined the keepers. Every night, she learned something new about the cosmic libraries. Tonight was special. Elder Yoon had told her she was ready for her first attempt at opening a bridge between worlds. The round room looked different in the light of the full moon. The glowing books seemed brighter, and the star map on the ceiling moved gently, like waves on a calm sea. "Remember what you learned," Du Young said kindly. He placed a book with a silver cover in front of He-jin. "The stars must align perfectly. Tonight, the northern star points directly at our library." He-jin sat on her cushion, the silver book in her lap. The other keepers formed a circle around her. Min Seo had drawn a special map just for tonight, showing the path He-jin needed to follow. "Take deep breaths," Elder Yoon instructed. "Feel the energy of the book. Let it become part of your own energy." He-jin closed her eyes. The book felt warm in her hands, its energy flowing like gentle waves through her fingers. She remembered Du Young's lessons about quantum connections, how everything in the universe was linked by invisible threads of light. When she opened her eyes, the book was floating slightly above her hands, giving off a soft silver glow. The words on its pages began to rise into the air, forming patterns that matched the star map above. "She's doing it," Jai-ho whispered excitedly. The floating words grew brighter, creating a doorway of light in the center of the room. Through it, He-jin could see another library. It looked similar to their room, but the books on its shelves glowed with colors she had never seen before. "That's the first library," Min Seo explained, checking her maps. "It's where the Dreamweavers began their collection of knowledge. No one from Earth has seen it in person for 100 years. He-jin felt something strange happening. The more she focused on the doorway, the more real it became. She could smell old books and strange, sweet flowers from the other side. The air coming through the doorway was warm and filled with tiny sparks of light. "Now comes the hard part," Elder Yoon said. "You must hold the bridge steady while we send a message through." Jai-ho stepped forward with a small book in his hands. "This contains our greetings to the first library's keepers. It will let them know that Earth's libraries are growing stronger." He-jin concentrated harder. Keeping the doorway open was like holding up a heavy weight, but not with her arms, with her mind. The silver book in her lap grew warmer, helping her maintain the connection. Jai-ho gently tossed his small book through the doorway. They watched as it floated across the bridge of light and landed softly on a table in the first library. A moment later, another book came floating back through the doorway. "Perfect. Elder Yoon," he clapped her hands together. You can close the bridge now, He-jin. Slowly, like closing a heavy door. He-jin imagined the doorway getting smaller. The light faded gradually until only a few sparks remained, dancing in the air where the bridge had been. The silver book in her lap cooled down, returning to its normal state. You have a natural talent for this, Do-young said proudly. Most people take years to learn how to create a stable bridge. He-jin felt tired but happy. She had done something amazing. Something that proved all the strange and wonderful things she had learned were real. The book that had come through the bridge lay on the floor in front of her, its cover made of a material that looked like starlight frozen in glass. What does it say? She asked. Elder Yoon-hee picked up the book and smiled. It says, "Welcome, young bridge maker. We have been waiting for you." After her success with opening the first bridge, He-jin spent every evening practicing with Jae-ho and Min-seo. They taught her the ancient Korean meditation techniques that would help her travel through the cosmic library network. These techniques have been passed down through generations of keepers. One quiet evening, as autumn leaves fell outside the library windows, Elder Yoon-hee gathered everyone for an important announcement. "It's time," she said, looking at He-jin with proud eyes. "Tonight, you will make your first journey through the bridges you can create." He-jin felt nervous but excited. Min-seo spread out her newest map on the floor. It showed 3 different libraries they would visit, each one marked with gentle, glowing dots. "I will go with you," Jae-ho said, standing next to He-jin. "And Min-seo will guide us using her maps. Remember, in the cosmic libraries, distance is measured in dreams, not miles." He-jin held the silver book that had helped her open her first bridge. Elder Yoon-hee had given it to her as a gift. "What will we find in these other libraries?" she asked. "Each library holds different kinds of knowledge," Min-seo explained, pointing to her map. "The first one we'll visit specializes in the science of stars. The second keeps records of all known dreams. The third studies how different worlds learn from each other." Do-young helped them prepare for the journey. He gave each of them a small crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. "These will help you find your way back," he said. "They are connected to our library through quantum links." He-jin sat in the center of the room, just as she had done before. This time was different, though. Instead of just opening a bridge, she would walk through it. Jae-ho sat beside her, and Min-seo stood ready with her maps. The silver book began to glow in He-jin's hands. She remembered her training and took deep breaths. The star map on the ceiling seemed to spin slowly as she focused her energy. A doorway of light appeared, larger than any she had made before. Through it, they could see a vast room filled with floating globes that showed different star systems. "Are you ready?" Jae-ho asked softly. He-jin nodded. Together, they stood up and walked toward the light. She felt a warm sensation, like stepping into gentle sunshine. When they emerged on the other side, they were in the star library. The globes floating around them showed stars being born and dying, planets moving in their orbits, and galaxies spinning through space. Everything was silent except for a soft humming sound that seemed to come from the stars themselves. "This is amazing," He-jin whispered. Her voice carried a slight echo in the vast space. Min-seo's voice came through the crystal they carried. "The Star Library's keepers are waiting to meet you. They have books to share about how stars dream." As they walked through the Star Library, He-jin realized that this was just the beginning. Each library they would visit would show her new wonders. Each book they found would contain knowledge that no one on Earth had seen before. "Next, we'll visit the Dream Library," Jae-ho said, pointing to another glowing doorway that was forming nearby. "The keepers there have been collecting dreams since the first stories were told." He-jin smiled. Her quiet life among the books had led her to something greater than she had ever imagined. With each step through these cosmic libraries, she was helping to build bridges between worlds, one dream at a time. After visiting several cosmic libraries, He-jin and Jae-ho returned to Earth to meet with senior archivist Sungmin, who had traveled from the oldest library in Korea to share important news. The meeting took place in the round room, where the books glowed more brightly than usual, as if they knew something special was about to happen. Sung-min was a tall man with gentle eyes and silver hair. He wore traditional Korean clothes and carried a book that seemed to be made of light itself. When he spoke, his voice was soft but clear, like wind through paper doors. "What you have discovered through your journeys is only the beginning," Sung-min said, opening his glowing book. "Each library you visited is part of something larger. The universal library system." He waved his hand over the book, and suddenly the room filled with floating images. Hye-jin saw hundreds of libraries, all connected by threads of light. Some were in buildings like their own, while others existed in crystal caves, floating cities, and places she couldn't even describe. "The Dreamweavers created this network long ago," Sung-min explained. "They knew that no single world could hold all the knowledge of the universe, so they split their wisdom into pieces and gave each planet a different part to protect." Min-seo stepped forward with her maps. "That's why my maps kept showing new paths. The libraries are always connecting in different ways, sharing their knowledge." "Exactly," Sung-min nodded. "Earth's libraries hold special pieces of this knowledge. We have books about dreams, stories, and the connections between all living things. Other worlds keep different kinds of wisdom." Hye-jin watched as the floating images showed a library made of singing crystals. "What do they keep there?" she asked. "That is the music library of the crystal world," Jae-ho said. "They study how the stars make music as they move through space. Their books can only be read by listening to them." Sung-min turned another page in his book, and the images changed. Now they saw a vast library that seemed to float in space itself. "This is the central archive," he said. "It's where all the knowledge comes together. Very few have ever visited it. But something is changing," Elder Yoon-hee added, stepping into the circle of light. "The books are becoming more active, sharing more of their secrets. They have been waiting for the right time and the right people." Hye-jin understood what they meant. Ever since she had started opening bridges between libraries, more books had begun to glow. More knowledge was becoming available. "The Universal Library is waking up," Sung-min said softly. "After thousands of years of sleeping, it's ready to share its wisdom again. But it needs people who can understand both books and dreams to help guide others through its knowledge." Do-young, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up. "That's why the books chose Hye-jin," he said. "She can read both the words and the dreams inside them." The images floating around them began to fade, but the feeling of wonder remained. Hye-jin looked at the glowing books on the shelves, understanding now that each one was part of something much bigger, a network of knowledge that stretched across the stars themselves. "What do we do next?" she asked Sung-min. The senior archivist smiled. "We begin the real work of connecting the libraries again. The universe has been waiting a long time to share its stories." Winter had come to Seoul, and snow fell softly outside the library windows. Hye-jin sat in her favorite corner of the round room, thinking about everything that had happened in the past few months. The glowing books around her seemed to sense her deep thoughts, their light pulsing gently like calm heartbeats. Jae-ho appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. He had become more than just a guide to Hye-jin. Through their many journeys across the cosmic libraries, they had grown close, sharing dreams and discoveries. "The Dreamweavers have sent a message," he said, sitting beside her and offering one of the cups. "They want you to become a universal librarian." Hye-jin wrapped her hands around the warm cup. "What exactly is a universal librarian?" she asked. "It means you would live among the stars," Jae-ho explained. "You would travel between all the libraries, helping to share knowledge across worlds. Very few are chosen for this role." Elder Yoon-hee entered the room, followed by Do-young and Min-seo. They had all come to support Hye-jin in making her decision. "It is a great honor," Elder Yoon-hee said softly. "But it also means leaving Earth behind, The work of a universal librarian requires living in the space between worlds. He-Jin looked at the star map on the ceiling. She thought about the amazing libraries she had visited. The Crystal Library where books sang their stories, the Dream Library where memories floated like clouds, and the magnificent Central Archive that floated in space. "What about our library here?" she asked. "What about the work we've started?" Do-Young stepped forward. "That's the other choice," he said. "You could stay here as Earth's guardian of knowledge. We need someone who can communicate with other worlds, who understands both human dreams and cosmic wisdom." Min-Seo spread out her newest map on the table. It showed all the connections He-Jin had helped create between Earth's libraries and the Universal Library Network. "Look how much has changed since you began," she said. "Our world is more connected now than ever before." He-Jin stood up and walked to the shelves where she had first found the magical book that started her journey. She touched its spine gently, feeling the warm energy that now felt so familiar. "I feel pulled in both directions," she admitted. "I want to explore the universe and learn all its secrets. But Earth's libraries hold special magic too." And she looked at Jai-Ho. "There are connections here I don't want to lose." Jai-Ho smiled understanding. "The choice must be yours," he said. "But know that whatever you choose, you won't be alone." Elder Yoon-hee placed a kind hand on He-Jin's shoulder. "Sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most beautiful paths," she said. "Take time to listen to what your heart tells you." He-Jin looked around the room at the people who would become her family. Elder Yoon-hee with her ancient wisdom, Do-Young with his scientific mind, Min-Seo with her magical maps, and Jai-Ho, who had shown her that dreams could become real. The books on the shelves seemed to glow brighter, as if they too were waiting to see what she would choose. Outside, the snow continued to fall, each flake carrying its own small piece of winter's quiet magic. Spring came to Seoul, bringing cherry blossoms and warm sunshine. In the round room of the library, He-Jin stood before the assembled keepers and dreamweavers. After many days of careful thought, she had made her decision. "I choose both paths," she announced, her voice clear and confident. "Earth needs its connection to the cosmic libraries, and the Universal Library needs its connection to Earth. I will be a bridge between them." Elder Yoon-hee's eyes sparkled with pride. "No one has ever tried this before," she said. "But if anyone can do it, you can." Over the next few months, He-Jin worked with both the Earth Keepers and the Dreamweavers to create something new, Earth's first official Universal Library branch. They chose a special room in the old library building, where the walls seemed to shift between earth stone and star stuff. Jai-Ho helped her set up the new space. "This will be different from other Universal Library branches," he said as they arranged glowing books on floating shelves. "It will be a place where Earth's wisdom and cosmic knowledge can meet." The room they created was beautiful. The ceiling showed moving stars that matched the real sky above Seoul. The shelves held both regular books and ones that glowed with cosmic light. Most importantly, there was a special reading area where people could learn about the Universal Library System. "Now comes the most important part," He-Jin said one evening. She had just finished training a young woman named Sua, the first of many new dream-walking librarians. "We need to share this knowledge carefully, with people who are ready to understand it." Sua nodded eagerly. Like He-Jin when she first started, she could sense the special energy in the books. "How will we know who is ready?" she asked. "The books will tell us," He-Jin explained. "Just like they chose me, they will choose others. Our job is to help those people understand what they find." As the seasons changed, more people began to discover the Universal Library branch. Some came looking for Earth knowledge, others for cosmic wisdom. He-Jin and her team helped them all, teaching them how to read both regular books and those filled with starlight. Jai-Ho stayed on Earth more often now, working beside He-Jin. Together, they created new ways for Earth's libraries to share knowledge with other worlds. Sometimes, they would travel through the Cosmic Library Network, and sometimes they would simply sit in the quiet of their reading room, helping others discover the magic of books. Elder Yum he visited often, bringing tea and wisdom. "You have created something wonderful," she told He-jin one peaceful evening. "A place where dreams and reality can meet safely." He-jin looked around at her life's work, the glowing books, the star maps on the walls, the happy faces of readers discovering new worlds through pages filled with light. She saw Sua helping a young student understand a book of star songs, while Du Young and Min Seo worked on new ways to map the paths between libraries. "This is just the beginning," He-jin said softly. "There are so many more stories to share, so many bridges still to build." Above them, the stars continued their slow dance across the library ceiling, twinkling like the pages of an endless book, waiting to be read.